Okay, so you know all those like those old sayings about what guys really want?
Yeah.
Like, is it love or is it
Yeah.
something a little more physical?
Aha. Yeah.
Well, today we are diving deep into this exact question
Okay.
using this article called What Men Really Want from Women, Love or Sex.
Right.
And I think we're going to uncover some interesting stuff here
I think so too.
because it's probably more complicated than a lot of people think.
Yeah.
So,
That's a good article.
yeah, so why don't we just jump right into it?
Yeah, okay.
One of the things the article talked about was this concept of like love being a sanctuary for a lot of men.
Right.
So what does that even mean? Like, what does that look like? Like, is it like,
Uh,
build him a little man cave in the basement or something?
no, haha. No, it's not. It's not literally a sanctuary. It's more like a feeling like you feel seen, and accepted.
Yeah.
For who you are, and you can kind of just drop all the armor that you wear, out in the world,
Yeah.
and just be yourself.
So it's more of an emotional thing than a physical space.
Yeah, it's definitely more emotional. It's about feeling safe and respected and like really understood,
Okay.
on a deeper level.
In the article, I noticed they mentioned things like emotional support and trust,
Right.
respect, as being like important for building that kind of environment.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, those are all key.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of men, being able to be emotionally vulnerable with someone
Yeah.
without feeling judged or ridiculed, that's really powerful, It builds intimacy and it strengthens the relationship as a whole.
Now, the article also talks about, it doesn't shy away from the topic of sex.
Right.
So how does that fit in with this whole idea of love as a sanctuary?
Well, I think that's what's so interesting about this article is that, it's suggesting that for a lot of men, sex isn't just about physical pleasure.
Yeah.
It's also a way to express intimacy and to deepen that emotional connection that we were just talking about.
So you're saying like instead of seeing love and sex as like two separate things or like competing things,
Yeah.
it's more about recognizing how they can actually complement each other.
Exactly.
Like make each other stronger.
I mean, when both partners feel safe and emotionally connected,
Yeah.
physical intimacy can be an even more powerful way to express love and, build a stronger bond.
It's like they build on each other.
Yeah, they definitely do.
Okay, so it sounds like what you're saying is like, we need to kind of move past this idea of like, choosing one or the other.
Right.
And it's more about finding that balance.
It is. And I think, the article actually goes beyond just these sort of abstract ideas.
Okay.
It actually outlines 4 very specific things that men desire in a relationship.
Okay, what are those?
Okay, so it's respect and appreciation,
Yeah.
a deep emotional connection like we were talking about,
Uh-huh.
shared goals and values, and a partner who prioritizes self-improvement.
Yeah.
And each one of these, I think, contributes to creating that safe and fulfilling space that we're calling a sanctuary.
So we've already kind of talked about the respect and appreciation
Yeah.
and the emotional connection part of it.
Right.
But what about the shared goals and values? Why is that so important?
I mean, think about it. When you and your partner are moving in the same direction, you're working towards common goals, you share similar values,
Yeah.
it creates a sense of partnership. Like you're really on the same team building something meaningful together.
It's like you're creating a future together that
Exactly.
you're both excited about.
And that sense of shared purpose, that's really bonding, I think.
Yeah.
It adds a level of meaning and fulfillment to the relationship that goes beyond just,
Mm.
the day-to-day stuff.
So that's 3 down and 1 to go. What about this idea of men being drawn to partners who are, into self-improvement?
Right.
Like what is it about that that's so appealing?
Well, I think it's about the energy of, growth and evolution. I mean, imagine being with someone who's constantly striving to be their best self.
Yeah.
Who's curious about the world and, excited to learn and grow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's contagious.
Yeah, you feed off of each other.
You do.
Okay.
And it shows, a level of self-awareness and maturity that I think is just inherently attractive. And it signals that they're not only invested in themselves, but that they're also invested in bringing their best to the relationship.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm curious about this. Do you think this desire for a growth-oriented partner, is that something that's unique to men?
Mm.
Or is that something that's more universal?
I think it's pretty universal. I don't think it's just a guy thing. I think most people, regardless of gender,
Yeah.
are drawn to partners who inspire them, who, challenge them to grow, who bring a sense of, excitement and possibility to the relationship.
And you know what? Speaking of growth and possibility, I can't help but think about, that book, Happiness Mantra?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Which is, by the way, 50% off right now for our listeners.
Yeah.
But I feel like that book really dives deep into a lot of these principles.
It does, yeah.
Of personal growth and how they can, positively impact our relationships.
Absolutely.
So maybe picking up a copy of Happiness Mantra is a good place to start if you want to become that growth-oriented partner.
That's a great idea.
But before we get too deep into self-improvement, I want to kind of shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
And explore this whole role of sex in building fulfilling relationships.
Okay.
Because I think there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, there is.
So let's get into that after a quick break.
It's really interesting how this article kind of reframes the whole idea of sex. Like it's not just a physical thing, right? It's a way to really enhance the emotional intimacy.
Yeah, that is a really cool way to look at it. Mm-hmm. Like it's not just about, checking off a box or something.
Right.
It's about really deepening that sense of connection and vulnerability that we were talking about before.
Exactly. And when both partners feel safe and loved,
yeah,
sex can become, it can be a really beautiful expression of that connection.
Uh-huh.
It can be a way to really celebrate each other, to communicate in ways that, words can't always do.
Right.
And to, just create a shared sense of pleasure and intimacy.
That makes a lot of sense. I think sometimes, though, there can be, a lot of confusion and mixed messages around sex.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially when it comes to understanding what our partners really want.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's where open and honest communication becomes, really, really crucial.
So it's not just about being physically intimate, right? It's about being emotionally intimate as well.
Exactly, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's about creating a dynamic where, both partners feel seen and heard and respected.
Yeah.
Inside the bedroom and outside the bedroom.
Now, I noticed the article also talks about the importance of self-improvement.
Right.
Not just for our own growth as individuals,
yeah,
but for the health of the relationship as well.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because I think self-improvement can actually make us more attractive partners.
I hope so.
When we're actively working on becoming the best versions of ourselves, we bring more confidence, more self-awareness, more emotional intelligence, to the relationship.
It's like investing in yourself as a way of investing in the relationship.
Exactly, yeah. And it creates a dynamic where you're both, kind of inspiring each other to grow and evolve.
Now, what about people who might say, well, if you're focusing too much on yourself and your own self-improvement, does that mean you're neglecting the relationship? Like, how do you find that balance?
That's a good question. I think it's all about, finding a healthy balance, right? Like self-improvement should enhance the relationship, not detract from it.
Right.
So it's about supporting each other's growth while also, really making sure to prioritize those moments of connection, those shared experiences that bring you closer together.
So it's not an either-or thing. It's just finding that sweet spot where both things can kind of coexist.
Yeah, and, that's where communication comes in again. It's important to, to talk to your partner about your individual goals, your aspirations, and to figure out ways to, support each other's journeys.
I love that. It's like you're creating this partnership where you're both kind of cheering each other on, right?
Exactly.
Both as individuals and as a couple.
And, when you have that kind of support system in place, I think the possibilities for growth and happiness are really limitless.
Speaking of happiness, Happiness Mantra.
Oh, yeah.
50% off right now for our listeners.
That's a great resource.
It's full of practical tips.
Yeah.
And really inspiring stories about how to create, a happier, more fulfilling life.
For sure.
For yourself and for your partner.
Yeah.
So maybe picking up a copy of Happiness Mantra is a good way to,
definitely
really kickstart that journey of self-improvement.
Yeah.
But before we get, too carried away talking about self-improvement. I want to kind of bring it back to the relationship itself.
Okay.
Because this article actually, it offers some specific advice, right?
It does.
For how to build these fulfilling relationships that we keep talking about.
Right.
So what are some of the key takeaways there?
Well, one of the biggest things for me was the emphasis on open and honest communication. You know, it sounds simple.
Yeah.
But it can be so powerful. You know, it's about creating that space where both partners feel comfortable expressing their needs, their desires, their fears, you know, without judgment.
It's about being vulnerable, right?
It is, yeah.
And that can be scary, but it also builds a lot of trust.
It does, yeah. When you can truly be yourself with your partner.
Yeah.
That's where the real magic happens.
Okay, so open communication is key. What else?
The article also talks a lot about focusing on emotional connection.
Okay.
And, you know, this isn't just about grand romantic gestures.
Right.
It's about those everyday moments of connection, you know?
Yeah.
Sharing a laugh, offering a listening ear, expressing appreciation for your partner, you know? These small acts can really make a big difference in keeping that spark alive.
It's about making your partner feel seen and heard.
Exactly.
And understood.
Yeah, on a daily basis. Yeah. You know? And it's also about making sure you prioritize quality time together. Okay. Even if it's just for a few minutes each day, you know? Put the phones away. Yeah. Make eye contact. Really engage with each other.
Those moments are so important.
They are, yeah. They really nurture the relationship.
So communication, emotional connection. What else? What else do they talk about in this article?
They also talk a lot about the importance of respecting boundaries.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
That's huge, yeah. You know, both physical and emotional boundaries.
Both.
Yeah. You know, it's about understanding and honoring your partner's comfort zones and being mindful of their needs and desires.
So it's not just about saying no to things you don't want to do.
Right.
It's also about communicating your needs.
Right.
Clearly. Right.
And it's about listening to your partner's boundaries with respect and understanding. You know, creating that culture of consent and mutual respect. Yeah. That's essential for building trust and safety in the relationship.
And last but not least, they also talk about the importance of celebrating each other.
Oh, yeah. That's so important.
So what does that mean?
You know, it's about taking the time to acknowledge your partner's accomplishments, right? Big or small.
Okay.
You know, express appreciation for their efforts, celebrate their unique qualities.
Well, it's about focusing on the positive, right? Yeah. And reminding each other why you fell in love in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, it's about keeping that spark alive. Yeah. By really nurturing that joy and gratitude and appreciation in the relationship.
So, wow, this has been quite a journey.
It has.
You know, we've gone really deep into this material. Yeah. And uncovered, you know, some really, really valuable insights.
I think so.
About what men really want in relationships.
And you know, I think it's important to point out that these insights are really relevant for anyone who wants to create a stronger, more fulfilling connection.
Exactly.
With their partner.
It's really about those fundamental human needs.
It is.
Right, for love and intimacy and respect and growth.
Yeah.
And putting in the effort to nurture those needs, both within ourselves and within our relationships.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to encourage our listeners to, you know, take some time to reflect on what we talked about.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And really think about how you can apply these insights
to your own life.
To your own life and your own relationships.
Absolutely.
What steps can you take to improve communication?
Yeah.
To deepen that emotional connection. Yeah. To create a relationship that really thrives on mutual respect and growth.
That's a great question.
And celebration.
Yeah.
And remember, you know, building fulfilling relationships.
And a journey.
It's a journey. It's not a destination.
It's not a destination. It's ongoing.
Right.
It's continuous learning. It's growth. It's, you know, it's commitment to becoming the best partners that we can be.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Of course. It was my pleasure.
We hope you've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
Yeah.
You know, exploring what men really want in relationships.
We have.
And it's been really fascinating, to me at least, to kind of move beyond those surface level assumptions and really dig into, like, what are those deeper desires that drive these fulfilling connections?
Yeah, and I think we've seen that it goes, It's more than just love or sex.
Right.
It's about creating a space where both partners, feel seen and respected and empowered to grow both individually and as a couple.
Yeah, and what I really like about this article is it doesn't just leave us with these, abstract concepts.
Right.
It actually gives us some real, tangible advice for how to put this stuff into practice.
Yeah.
So are you ready to get practical?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that I thought was really powerful was this emphasis on celebrating each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what does that look like in a day-to-day relationship?
Well, it's about really noticing and appreciating your partner's efforts, no matter how big or small they are.
Okay.
It's about expressing gratitude for the things that they do that, make your life better, even the little things.
So instead of focusing on what's missing,
right,
you're actively looking for those moments to express appreciation.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about shifting your perspective to a more positive and more abundant one. And
right.
I think when we make that effort to celebrate each other, it creates this positive feedback loop, that really strengthens the whole relationship.
And that goes back to that whole idea of love as a sanctuary.
It does, yeah.
It's about creating that space where you feel valued.
Right.
You feel appreciated for who you are.
Yeah. And when we feel celebrated, we feel safer to be ourselves.
Yeah.
We feel more confident. We feel more willing to open up emotionally.
And that openness is so key for building that deep connection.
It is.
That we've been talking about. Now, the article also, it talks about the importance of respecting boundaries.
Yes.
So why is that so crucial, especially when we're talking about creating a safe and loving space?
Well, I think boundaries are, they're essential for any healthy relationship, right?
Yeah.
They allow us to define our own individual needs and limits. And they create a space where both partners feel respected and empowered.
So it's not just about saying no to things that you don't want to do.
Right.
It's also about, communicating your needs and your expectations really clearly.
Exactly. And it's about, listening to our partner's boundaries with respect and understanding.
Yeah.
Creating that culture of consent and mutual respect. That's really, the foundation for building trust and safety.
So it sounds like, communication is really, really important.
It is, yeah. Communication is key.
Are there any other specific communication strategies that the article mentions?
Yeah, there's, one thing that I thought was really helpful was this emphasis on using I statements.
Okay.
When you're expressing your needs or feelings. So instead of, blaming or accusing your partner,
right,
you can focus on owning your own experience.
So instead of saying, you never listen to me,
right,
you would say something like, I feel unheard when I don't get a chance to share my thoughts.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a small shift in language.
Yeah.
But it can make such a big difference in how the message is received.
And it's less,
yeah.
It's less accusatory.
Yeah. It's
more about,
it takes the blame out of it.
Right, exactly.
And allows you to communicate your needs.
Yeah.
Without, putting the other person on the defensive.
And, isn't that what happiness mantra is all about?
Oh, yeah.
It's like being, mindful about communication and creating positive energy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially in the context of relationships.
Yeah. Happiness mantra offers so much good advice about how to,
yeah,
create a happier, more fulfilling life for yourself and for the people you love.
And it's 50% off.
That's right.
For our listeners.
Don't miss out on that.
Right. Exactly. Okay, so back to communication. The article also talks about active listening.
Yes.
As a key skill. So what does that involve?
Active listening is about being fully present with your partner when they're speaking.
Okay.
It's about putting aside distractions, making eye contact, really, really focusing on understanding their perspective.
So it's not just about waiting for your turn to talk.
Right.
It's about really engaging with what they're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's about reflecting back what you've heard to make sure that you're understanding them correctly.
It sounds simple, but I bet it takes practice.
It does. It does. But it's so worth it.
Yeah.
Because when we feel truly heard and understood by our partner, it creates such a deep sense of connection.
Right.
And intimacy.
Well, this has been an incredible journey.
It has.
exploring what men really want in relationships.
Yeah.
And I think we've learned that it's about so much more than just love or sex.
It is.
It's about creating that safe and fulfilling space where both partners feel respected and appreciated.
Yeah.
And empowered to grow.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
We hope you learned some valuable insights.
Yeah.
That you can apply to your own relationships.
And remember, it's a journey.
It's a journey.
Not a destination.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep celebrating each other.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.